We are now live, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. First of all, can I welcome everybody to tonight's Cabinet meeting? Can I ask, under the protocol, that people remain muted and the camera off until they're called to speak? On the apologies, we've got two apologies. We've got Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Jackson's apologies tonight. Is there any declarations of interest? No. So there's no declarations of interest. And we'll go on to the next. Can we confirm the minutes of the previous cabinet meeting? Are those present? Are those okay? Can I propose they're accepted? Have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bramham. Public consultation. We have got. Is there any other members of the public that indicated to speak?
No, other than Michelle Kandaka, there is no other members of the public. But there is obviously Councillor Kandaka and Councillor Elliott who have requested to speak as well. Yeah.
So what I'll do, I'll take them in order then as we go through. Yeah. Yes, I got you right. So the first item is item 6. Which is me. Item 6 is the Nuneaton Bedworth Borough Council's leisure facility needs assessment and strategy. This report provides Cabinet with a refreshed leisure structure strategy for approval and adoption. It builds upon 2016 and 17 strategy, which was already originally provided the evidence and the data to support the long-term leisure planning. It also provides the evidence to enable the council to seek requests from developers, contributions towards increasing the leisure capacity to meet the needs of the borough going forward based upon the local plan. The refreshed strategy provides the solid foundation for this council to continue to develop a leisure strategy and a vision to support health and well-being of its residents over the medium to long term, and evidences the need for developers' contributions. The idea of the strategy is so we can move through the different stages and plan the work. The plan that we're using is what we call RIBA, and that is through the Royal Institute of British Architects, RIBA. It's split into several key components, 7 stages. The RIBA plan works to provide a shared framework and design and construction that offers both the process map and the management tool, and goes through in 7 stages. I nearly said Madam Chair then. I'd like to recommend the recommendations that we've got in 2.1 and 2.2. But before doing, I'd like to call the speakers, which are, can I take Michelle Kandaka first, please? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle.
Yeah, my main concern is really the numbers on which this strategy is based. And I think, it's obviously a good idea to have, the strategy and the need for developer funding and all that sort of thing. But I'm concerned that it's sort of very much in an ideal world, but we don't live in an ideal world, especially since, you know, COVID, and the population figures that are used. Is, you know, realistically, is the population really going to be rise by over 25,000? You know, the numbers in the borough plan are already being disputed, and, you know, things. And there's a lot of inaccuracies actually in the report, in the appendices. On the first one, you know, HSG1, you know, there was a graphic with 34,419 homes. You know, so I feel like people haven't actually read through all the documents, you know, properly. And I was a bit concerned also, you know, on an aside from that, that all the appendices were just documents which, you know, people can play around with and things rather than PDFs. And it's got like imported demand, particularly on the swimming, imported demand from Coventry. When is Coventry not being asked to provide enough for their own residents? I feel like we're sort of being made to subsidise, you know, other areas and things. And my main concern is, at this point in time, is how much money is being spent on feasibility and you know, all these things already on consultancy, when there doesn't seem to be a sort of timescale. I mean, everyone's agreed that Bedworth needs to be done first, and I don't think there's any disputing that. But there seems to be like launching into everything all at the same time. This strategy is supposed to go up till 2035, and so, you know, my feeling is that we should be having, right, Bedworth now. In 5-10 years' time, we'll start looking at, you know, doing things from Pingles. And then, you know, depending on how much the borough has actually grown, how much housing and development there has actually been, things, you know, I'm very concerned that there's no sort of time scales or anything in there. Because when I worked and things, we were always told that you need to set up goals to get your success. You have to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. SMART, it was always called. I don't know whether there's a new management acronym to cover all these things, but yeah, the time scale is very, very much missing. So I think that's all I need to say. Thank you.
You're muted, Chairman.
Thank you. Has anybody got any points of clarification they'd like to ask Michelle Condical? No? Okay. Can I call then Councillor Keith Condical, please?
Thank you. Can you see me?
I can, yes.
All right, so there's a lot of delay on the system today. I wanted to echo the points that Michelle said, but particularly the point about the targets and the numbers, because in the Appendix A, which is the more detailed report, it talks about effectively just gaining a population up to 154,000, which is about 25,000 more people in the next 15 years. And we simply aren't going to do that. What seems to have happened is we had in 2012 the borough plan and all the other local plans developed. That generated a need for more housing on the assumption that people live less people per household. So effectively, as we're getting older and families are getting smaller, they said, well, actually, we'll have more people, but actually we'll have a lot more households because the household size would shrink. And that generates a stupid housing target. But then that housing target is then being used to back calculate population growth, which doesn't match the original population growth, because effectively you've then kept the large number of people per houses and hikes the population by 25,000. So the ONS produced really decent projections. They say our population over the 15 years will go about 12,000. And we've just quite simply doubled that by the way we've done this calculation to get to 154,000. And that makes the whole plan flawed, because then we don't have enough numbers to justify all the expansion of facilities. Those numbers may come, but the urgency goes away. And I really think we need to have an honest set of numbers based upon the ONS, not this double counting, because what we're effectively doing is double counting. And that would involve us having a plan to regenerate the Bedworth Leisure Centre now and the Pingles maybe in 10 or 15 years' time. And it's really important we do this right. Also in the document, it talks about us building 14,000 houses. We've already 9 years into the plan. So we've already built 4,000 or 5,000 of those. And I say the whole system is ignoring what we've built, taking the growth and then doubling it, because the ONS projections already have the growth in it. And we end up with a seriously flawed plan and a seriously flawed population projection. Our population in the borough is going up 700 people per year. Half of that is from people living longer, and half of that is from people moving from Coventry and the like. We need a plan that is based upon a plausible number, not 25,000 gaining population over 15 years. I really love us to have all these new sports facilities, but we need to get our numbers right. And we need to have someone who's a proper statistician working out what the population will be in 2031 and 2035. Because at the moment, Kevin and his team have taken the proper things and then added on the growth again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Condacall. OK, has anybody got any points of clarification for Councillor Condacall? No. OK, thank you, Councillor Condacall. Mr. Hollis, have you got anything you'd like to cover before I start? Is there any points that you can bring up about the actual stats, where we got those stats from to compile this report?
Thank you, Chair. The facilities planning model is undertaken by Sport England as a consistent approach across the country. The 2034 population figure for the FPM worked utilising the same methodology as that for the borough plan to ensure that the modelling accounts for the growth delivered through the borough plan. Therefore, the ONS population projections for 2012 were used as a starting point, with adjustments to accounts for economic growth, affordability and overspill from Coventry. That's the adopted plan that we have, and that's the methodology that we've provided to Sport England for them to do the modelling based upon the adopted local plan. That was to ensure that there was consistency and that the figures there that were at that time that were adopted have been used, Chair.
Thank you. So there's no double counting. What we're basically using is all the facts and figures from the borough plan, from Sport England. The borough plan's been through the inspector. He's passed the borough plan, so they're the figures we have to use. As any other member, Councillor Beaumont or Watkins, have you got anything you'd like to add? Oh,
no, yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
No, thanks, Chair.
Okay, that's good. Can I propose the recommendations then, please, in 2.1 and 2.2? Have we got a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. All, thank you, Councillor Watkins. All those in favour? Is there anybody not in favour? No, so I take it that's unanimous then. Thank you very much. So that takes us on to item 7. Thank you. Agenda item 7 is the leisure facilities options, strategic outcomes and planning guidance. Shortened version is the SOPG. The report provides members with revised Borough Council strategic outcomes and planning guidance, SOPG, document to be submitted to Sport England for their approval and sign off. For Nuneaton and Bedworth to seek external funding through Sport England for major capital investment projects, the submission of the SOPG is required and needs to be approved and signed off. This does not guarantee, though, any capital investment support, but it is part of the process in applying for financial investment. The SOPG supports the borough-wide leisure and destination park strategy with evidence, data, public consultation, feedback, and all from its own strategies. The main areas detailed in the SOPG states that the Pingles Activity Hub, the Bedworth Activity Hub, Top Farm Activity Hub, and the concept plans for Riversley and Miners Welfare Parks. The ongoing support and guidance from Support England project management and consultants teams funded by Sport England in supporting the council has been most beneficial to date, with the experiences and knowledge of the projects of this nature, of this size. The proposals are in the recommendations also include change for Pingles, which does bring in a new Pingles pool rather than previously said a redeveloped Pingles pool. And it also brings in, obviously, as a priority, the Bedworth swimming pool, because obviously the age of that pool, you know, if ever the pool actually breaks or the pump house goes down, then we'd have a major problem. We wouldn't be able to accommodate all the swimming in the borough. I've had many representations over this over a period of time, including obviously one of the local councillors, Councillor Hancock's. The recommendations are in 2.1 and 2.5, but before I move those recommendations, I've got a couple of speakers. Can I bring in Michelle Kandaka, please? Okay,
Thank you.
so.
I mean, really, the points I want to make are actually pretty much the same as I made on item 6, because they're all completely interrelated. Just the time scale and how much money is being sort of put in advance, in spending on consultants and things, when I don't think that we can really do it in a very fast time scale. And I think it's just a case of the pacing of the whole thing. So yes, do Bedworth first. Once you do that, then review and see where we are in terms of doing Pingles. If development eventually does happen on Top Farm, then that can be dealt with. And we've got in the strategy what the long-term plan is, so we can get the money from developers and what have you and things. But actually, in terms of being realistic about the order it's all done in and when, I think we need to put the brakes on a little bit and not sort of run before we can walk. Thank you. You're on mute.
Thank you, Michelle. Has anybody got any points of clarification for Michelle Kandaka? No. Can I call then for Councillor Keith Kandaka, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a lot of the similar things to the previous comments. We don't have 154,000. That was never in the inspection folks around the borough plan, and to say so is inaccurate. But we do have a growing population, and absolutely everyone agrees Bedworth Leisure Centre is an absolute must. It's 40 years old. But there really must be a question asked about demolishing a 20-year-old swimming pool at the Pingles, which should have another 10 or 20 years life in it. And if we look in the long term, it actually makes a lot of sense to stagger the rebuilding of our swimming pools from the point of view if you get 2 bites of the cherry at getting your size right. So obviously, if we waited 10 years to redevelop Pingles, we then actually know what our population growth was. and it gets 10 years more use out of an asset, and whatever we replace it with will then last on another 10 years. Yeah, if your family has 2 cars and one of them's 40 years old and one's 20 years old, yeah, you replace your old car, but you don't replace 2 cars at the same time. You alternate between replacing cars. It helps your cash flow, and it helps a whole lot of other things. So it seems absolutely mad. Also, in this report, there's an awful lot of typos and errors still. If you look in the appendix, which is the actual report, things like the Pingles Leisure Centre is marked as a 2, where the railway station is. We still haven't gone through these documents and taken any notice of all the typos and just sillinesses in them. So I do hope one day we might actually have one of these things proofread before we actually go and approve it. And I do ask that this council, yet again, looks at the figures and thinks about extending the life of the Pingles for 10 years, so that we're not doing a ridiculous amount of spending at a time which could actually be a depression. We seriously need to have a reality check and put all our efforts into doing a really good job at replacing the Bedworth Leisure Centre. I also must say we really need to encourage a lot of the outdoor sporting activity as well, because outdoor sports are so much more, A, they're more cost efficient, and B, it is really healthy for people to do stuff outside where possible. And I obviously know you can't swim outside in November, but a lot of the things like the park run have been phenomenally successful, as had a lot of the youth football, youth rugby. Yeah, we don't want to put all our money into buildings when actually all our activity can be split equally between indoors and out. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Condical. Has anybody got any points of clarification? No. Okay. Mr. Hollis, have you got anything you'd like to add, especially around the time frame? The way I understand it, there is a time frame for building both Bedworth and Nuneaton swimming baths. They're not being built at the same time.
Thank you, Chair. Just to try and answer some of those points, I think Councillor Kandaka raised some good points, and the ability to be working with Sport England and their cost consultants at their cost. They're supporting us with this as a borough council, and that's the reason why we're going through their methodology and their SOPG. Is that I took advice from Sport England, who helped fund the Pingles just under 20 years ago, and their advice and their cost consultants have detailed that the most efficient and beneficial way forward would be to build new. Trying to match an old build and a new build, albeit only 20 years, can be very costly, and you will not know the true cost until you actually undertake the work. And that's been found out quite recently in Warwick, where they did old and new next to each other and came across a number of issues that financially they had not prepared for. Their advice from their specialists is quite definitely to build new, and that is what they identified to ourselves. And I appreciate a 20-year-old building, but I think by the time we get round to doing Pingles, there obviously will be several more years on from that. I think the priority has been raised, and we've documented it in reports that Bedworth is the #1 priority. And in the previous report, we've said that we'll be going to stage 3 REBA for Bedworth Leisure Centre and looking at REBA 1 only for Pingles. So that would give us some more information, both financial and designs, etc., based upon the public consultation and feedback from all the stakeholders that we did in February. They will then come back to Cabinet for future decisions and way forward. So we have got a timescale. Bedworth is the #1 priority. Take that to REBA 3, and as you detailed in your last update, REBA 3 gets us to a level where you then make a decision what's next. So we are moving forward. We do have a planned timescale, and we are taking it seriously to make sure we've got the professional advice from external partners as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hollis. Has any members got anything they would like to contribute? No. Okay. I think it's exciting times. This document clearly sets out the visions for this Borough Council and the people that were consulted in the recent consultations that we had back in February, I think it was. I think, you know, like I say, it's exciting times. It's going to see in the future a new facility at Bedworth and a new larger facility at Nuneaton. All the sporting organisations that were involved at the two wet centres are crying out for space. Certainly the swimming organisations throughout Nuneaton and Bedworth are fighting for space all the time. So it's not just about organisations as well, it's about members of the public having space for members of the public to swim at the same time as the clubs as well. So I'll leave it at that. Kevin Hollis, would you like to come back in?
Sorry, Chair, what I didn't respond to was in the SOPG, a fundamental part of that report is also the outdoor space, both for Miners Welfare Park and Riversley Park. Ambitious plans in there that we've detailed to both support town centre, the links from town centre into those destination parks. And that has been a real key area that Sport England have raised. We were looking at that very early on before COVID, and they really liked the idea of how we were not just using leisure facilities. As Councillor Kandaka quite rightly said, not everybody wants to turn up and go swimming and does health and fitness. Many people and residents are very keen to use the outdoor area space for park runs, walking the dog, etc., social meeting, and this SOPG takes that into consideration and really drives that opportunity for us in the two destination parks. I just wanted to raise that because Councillor Kandaka raised that, and also Sport England are seeing that as a real model, a real difference, especially with the current COVID and moving forward, that we have facilities both indoor and outdoor to meet our residents' needs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we've got some exciting plans for the future, and I'd like to move the recommendations in 2.1, into 2.1, 2.2 through to 2.5. Is there a seconder?
Second Chair, Chris Watkins.
Any member want to say anything?
Yeah, I just to agree with what you were saying, really, that these are exciting times. Looking forward to seeing some of the changes. I have looked in detail at the designs and everything for both parts, and that they have taken into consideration all of the consultations that we received off the public. Yeah, looking forward to working with whoever and taking these forward. Brilliant.
Okay. So I move the recommendations then in 2 from 2.1 to 2.5. Is the seconder?
Councillor Watkins already seconded it.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. Is everybody in favour of that? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So that takes us on to item 8. Okay. This report sets out the Council's plan to recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. It focuses on 3 key themes: economy, community and health and organisation, in line with the priorities of Warwickshire-wide Recovery Advisory Group. The action plan is attached in Appendix A and will be reviewed and updated by the management team regularly, and a progress report brought back to the Cabinet by March 2021. Has any member got... Oh, sorry. We've got 2 speakers. Yeah. We've got Michelle Kandaka. Would you like to?
Well, just a couple of things to sort of pick out and things. I mean, in one place it said it would come back to Cabinet in March 2021, and I thought to myself that should surely be, it should come every 3 months at least, because everything is changing so rapidly. But then somewhere else I did actually read that it said, you know, or if not before and things. So I think it needs to be a bit more specific on that. I think at least every 3 months it should be looked at Cabinet. I haven't been able to had time to go through absolutely everything, but I did start looking through it. And one thing I can comment on is please do not use so many acronyms. There were MGPT, whatever's, and I had no idea what that is. So if it's a document, I know it's obviously mainly being used, you know, within the council management team, but it does come to these meetings, which are public meetings, and if it's going to have all sorts of acronyms, it does need to have a glossary as to what they actually mean. On the economic assessment, I was just concerned about, have we actually managed to fill some of the vacancies we had in economic development and things? Have we actually got people with the skills to, you know, assess the economic assessments for the towns? And just sort of slightly on a slightly different tangent about the one-way system, I can only report for the one in Nuneaton because I haven't been to Bedworth recently. I've had no reason to go there because obviously staying closer to home. But the one-way system, it's sort of a bit haphazard. It's very difficult. I do try and follow where you're supposed to go. Most people don't. But for example, this morning, the sort of direction I was supposed to be going in, then the market stall was on the other side, so you have no choice but to cross over. So it's very, very difficult and things, and I don't know whether it's actually, you know, been worth. Does it actually keep people further apart? The layout of the market, I think, is actually improved. It means you're not all scrunched together, and you actually have more space to look at things. Obviously, I don't think there are quite as many market stalls at the moment. Again, I haven't been wandering around quite the way I would have in previous times. So, but those are just the comments I wish to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any member got any points of clarification they'd like to ask? No? Thank you very much, Michelle. Can I invite Councillor Kondaka to say his 3 minutes?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, there are a lot of acronyms. Fortunately, I know a few of them. The medium-term financial plan is one of the key ones. And I really do think we need to be thinking about the serious things we need to sort out financially to make the budgets balance, given all the loss of income we've got. And the obvious thing we need to look at is waste. It's such a massive variable in terms of how much we get for our recyclate and running costs of the waste service, etc. And we've wasted a month on talking about unitaries that have now thankfully been put to a side. But I think one thing the council needs to look at in these plans going forward is the Joint Waste Authority, because that would save us money. It would actually make the 6 councils work better together, to actually reduce the need for going to unitary if we actually had a waste authority doing that stuff. And it will be a very positive step in balancing the books. Some of the other things in building back better and recovery, broadband has been so important. Me and Michelle have good broadband. We've got 2 team sessions going on our broadband connection, whereas Councillor Watkins and Councillor Shepherd's barely have a connection. We do need to actually get as many people in the borough on fast fibre broadband, and that is something I know it's some of its combined authority, but actually improving our broadband and getting us better able to work online it is part of the Build Back Better. It should be part of our recovery plan. You know, we need to get jobs in the town, and we need to get people able to work from Nuneaton, and poor broadband seems to be a really limiting factor, particularly in parts of the borough. So I do hope we can take that forward. And And yeah, there's just so much to do. All the officers are so overwhelmed dealing with a day job and dealing with COVID. I know it will take a long while to work through this stuff, but we do need to think about building back better. I think we will have more people cycling in future as a healthier option and to avoid public transport. So I do think we need, in the building back better stuff, to be looking more at our cycling routes again and cycle racks and things. And we need to look at which businesses are struggling. On the arts, only the 5 Street Working Men's Club has got the culture grant. They've got £200,000. All our other arts venues, as far as I know, haven't got the culture money from government to help them. And we've got so many cultural venues, from things like the Crew, the Civic Hall and our 2 art centres. We really need to be making sure we've got all those venues and the pubs that do live music all getting funding to keep them going and hoping they'll restart again. Because, yeah, somewhere like the Crew, yeah, it was a very, very important music venue. And, yeah, it hasn't yet, I see, got help from the government. Thank you.
You've muted yourself, Councillor.
Yeah, I have finished.
Yeah, no, you'd muted yourself as well. Yeah, thank you very, very much for that. Has any member got anything they'd like to ask Councillor Condacourt? Councillor Watkins, point of clarification?
Yeah, it's not to ask any clarification. It's just to point out that there is nothing wrong with more broadband. So I don't know how Councillor Condacourt can see what my broadband is, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with more broadband. So not only can he see into the future now, but can also see more broadband. So just to let everybody know, my broadband is fine, thank you.
I can see it's fine, Councillor Watkins. Has anybody got any more points of clarification for Councillor Condacourt? No? Okay, thank you, Councillor Condacourt. Having heard everything that's just been said, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fluid document. I mean, if, you know, we need to come back at a sooner date, we come back at a sooner date. Nobody can guess what's going to happen with this virus over the coming months, so we've got to be prepared. Mr. Hollis, did you want to come back in? I've seen your hand up. No.
Apologies, Chair, that was an old hand.
Okay, all right. So if no officers, has any officers got anything they want to contribute before I move on? No.
No, Chair, not from me, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So can I move then the recommendations in 2.1 to 2.4?
Seconding, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor
All those in
Watkins.
favour? Yep. Okay, that's unanimous then. Thank you very much. That takes us on, I'm juggling paper. That takes us on to exclusion of recommendations from overview and scrutiny panel. There isn't any. There's no any other items. So it takes us on to the exclusion of the public. Can I ask that the live stream is ceased?
Yes, Chair. I don't know whether you wanted to ask for a seconder on the exclusion of public and press.
Oh, sorry, to apologise. I'm new at this game in the Chair.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. So can we exclude the public and press, please, and stop the live feed?
Yes, Chair. I'll just ask for it to be stopped. I'll confirm when it has ended.
Thank you.